Welcome to Almost Cancelled. I'm the king beyond the spoiler wall, Matt, and with me, as always, is the ginger raven, Connor. You gonna say hi, Connor?
Wasn't going to.
Oh,
Sorry, force a
jeez.
habit.
Gotcha. Come on, I'm not Pete.
I
I
know
like
he
I
rush.
like when you talk.
Force a habit. He rushes through it, and I just
And today we're here to talk about season 7, episode 3 of Game of Thrones, called "The Queen's Justice." So the show is moving very quickly, which we kind of talked about last week.
yeah.
Starts off with John and Davos actually sailing into Dragonstone, which I didn't expect until maybe next episode.
Yeah, and it stays with him for a good half the episode, pretty
Oh
much.
yeah,
Like
yeah,
this
it's
goes
it's
on
a
a long
solid
time.
20 minutes. Yeah, and not that I knew from just watching the clock, because I was like, this is good. Like this has been on for a while, so what's going on?
Yeah, towards
But
the end of it, I was like, "Hang on, this has been going a long time." It just suddenly dawned on me.
and it opens up. They're rowing in from their ship, and some beauty shots of Dragonstone. As again, that's a place I wouldn't mind living,
Yep.
right? And they come up to the beach, and Missandei's waiting for them with a contingent of Dothraki and the Hand of the Queen, Tyrion.
I just want to say, those two they look really good in the blue.
Yeah,
I don't know if they've been in it for a while and I've just not really noticed it, but it really dawned on me in this episode that they're all in that blue that Daenerys is in and looks good.
yeah, they look like a unified front.
Yeah.
Even though they're a patchwork contingent of people,
Mm.
they're putting up a unified front, which is kind of the Khaleesi's thing, right? Like she wants to unify.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All under the one banner.
Right. So we get a nice exchange between Tyrion and Jon, and he calls him the bastard of Winterfell, and he calls him, what was it, the dwarf of Casterly Rock?
Yeah.
Yeah. So that was fun. It's good seeing these guys meet again because it's been since what, the first season?
First, yeah, it was when Tyrion left the wall, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, so season 1.
Yeah. So we get a lot of cool pairings up in this episode that we haven't quite seen before, and this is just the first, which I really liked.
Yeah, it was nice to see them, that they call each other that, and then they have that little smile. Like they
Yeah,
definitely respect each other.
I almost expected them to bro hug, just like bring it in,
Yeah.
even though that's completely not like a thing in Westeros, I don't think.
I hope not.
Yeah, and then they make that awesome journey up the stairs to
Yeah.
the proper castle, and John gets buzzed by one of the dragons.
To
Like
be
he's a top
fair,
gun.
I
Yeah.
don't blame him.
Oh, either do I. I thought it was a fun little scene that like he's like, this dude has seen the dead rise and ice,
Yeah.
creatures, and now he's seeing a dragon, and his whole worldview is
Yeah,
just
it's
completely changed.
completely shits him up, doesn't it?
And so it kind of buzzes him, and Tyrion, who's used to it by now, is just like, yeah, they do that. So do you think that was a little send up to Jon Shu heritage, or you just think it was a
Well,
fun?
yeah, I considered that as well. Is it like are the dragons aware
Mhm.
somehow,
They can
or
feel the dragon blood, kind of.
right? But then I was like, maybe not. Maybe it's just there's new people. They've been protective.
Yeah, from a show making perspective, that's the word I was looking for. It was, you don't have to show the dragons, but you get their presence, so you can save some
Mm.
precious CGI for when we're
Yeah,
gonna need it.
just show them from afar every so often.
Yeah, and just remind us that they're there. Although they just keep showing us two of them, and I hope that's not you know,
That's a good point.
a foreshadowing of something to come. But yeah, I mean, if it happens, it happens. But I don't want to. I like these three. You know. Um, but yeah, so we get to the meat of this Dragonstone. It's not quite a scene, but plot of this episode. And Daenerys and Jon see each other face to face for the very first time on the show.
Yes.
And to us, that's huge because we know who Jon's parents are now. We know his story. We know Daenerys's story. And to see the actual Fire Knights actually come together That was the fun.
Yeah, it's about time, isn't it?
Exactly. You're seven seasons in,
Yeah.
3 episodes. What's that? 64 episodes, 63. We finally
63, yeah.
Yeah. And we get all the Khaleesi's titles, which always cracks me up.
It goes on it goes on longer every time you hear it, doesn't it?
Yeah, it does. Breaker of Chains and Mother of Dragons and just all of these huge things. And then Davos tries to do it with Jon, and he's just like, Lord's Commander of the Night's Watching, King in the North.
Yeah, no. I think the first one goes, it just, like, Melisandre lists off all the titles, and he just goes, this is Jon Snow.
Yeah.
And Jon, like, just gives him a look. He's like,
Yeah.
is that it? And he goes, he's King in the North. And that's it.
Yeah. And I like this little back and forth between Daenerys and Jon, because Daenerys is just used to getting what she asked for. Like, she's not a negotiator whatsoever.
She's not. She's never had to be, has she? She's
No.
always won.
Well, not just that. She's always had people do it for her. You know, like she had Jorah, she had her brother.
Yeah.
And, so now she's made up these decisions, and she's just so used to. I mean, when she took Meereen, she had dragons. Like, who's gonna stop her?
Right. That's kind of been her thing the whole time. It's like, I've got dragons. I call the shots.
Yeah.
That's it.
And so it was good to see her get out of her element. Because Jon's like, well, no, I'm not just gonna bend the knee because I've defied everybody's expectations. Like, I shouldn't be. I was a bastard. Now I'm king in the North. Like,
Yeah.
I don't do things exactly the way they're supposed to. And I got nervous for Jon, knowing the Stark boys' history with Targaryens.
Yeah, I mean that's brought up multiple times. Even when I think it was Tyrion says, Starks who come south doesn't end well for them.
Yeah, and it also ties into Jon. Not, his whole thing in the first episode this season was he's not going to pass the sins of the father to the sons and daughters, and he tells that to Daenerys. I'm giving you respect and chance. I'm not going to make you pay for what your father, the Mad King, did to my family. And, but don't forget, my father joined in a rebellion against your father because of the poor choices he made. So he's walking this very fine line. And, they say that when you're brought back with the fires of R'hllor, you're not quite the same. And I think this Jon...
He's a little bit more reckless, isn't he?
I wouldn't say reckless here, but he's confident. He knows what he wants, even if that's not what everybody else wants. Because he did this with Sansa as well.
Yeah. I thought it was a really interesting bit, this scene, because obviously Daenerys is saying, hey, don't judge me on what the Mad King did. I'm not him. And he's like, well, that's fair enough. I won't. But I'm not going to be beholden to the oaths that my ancestors made.
Yeah, that was a good line too. I like that.
And you can just see it on her face where she has to accept that, because if she doesn't, then her whole existence of being on the crown is kind of gone.
Well, it kind of makes her no different than Cersei, right?
Right,
like,
exactly.
She's just grabbing power. She's not respecting the people that are there.
Yeah.
And that's where this uneasy truce, I feel, this is where it hits its fever pitch, because both of them start getting irritated with the other at this point, because they're not ceding ground. And then the hands kind of have a little back and forth. And Davos tips his hand. Well, what's left of his hand.
Yeah.
So by kind of telling him that he was stabbed in the heart and betrayed by his men, and Jon cuts him off. But
it's not very subtle, though, was it?
No, not at all. Which this whole episode's kind of full of things that aren't subtle, and I feel that's seeding for later.
Or red herrings.
Or red, that could be too. But what else happened at Dragonstone? We had the awesome. So they leave, right? And Jon goes to Brood, and he's standing on, and he looks badass. Just standing there with the wind blowing through his cloak, just almost like Batman, which is hard for me to take.
Yeah.
Standing on one of those gargoyles in that famous Jim Lee pose.
Yeah, that's the shot.
just brooding, and Tyrion comes out there. He's like, "Oh, this is where I come to brood, but you do it so much better than I." And Tyrion gets some great lines in here.
He does, and I love this cliff because there's two times we see this cliff. There's here with these two, and we get Melisandre and Varys before.
Yeah,
and every time it cuts to those wide shots, you've got the two of them just down on the left of the screen, and then just the epic scenery is a gorgeous shot. Some of the best this show's ever produced.
Yeah. I wonder, is that did they film that in Ireland?
I'm not sure where Dragonstone is. I know a lot of it's filmed in Ireland, so
I'm not
most of Westeros is on Ireland, so I'd assume so.
I know some of it, like King's Landing, some of that stuff's in Croatia.
Yeah,
but I think, anyways, it's beautiful, and these stunning cliffs and whatnot just look great. But yeah, let's talk about that Melisandre and Varys scene, because Varys doing his spy master thing again, as the Master of Whispers, and kind of calls out Melisandre. He knows why she's there.
Yeah.
That she must have had a falling out, and that's why she's down there hiding. She wanted to get there before they did.
Yeah, he's not an idiot.
No. And she says, she's not planning on staying, because that's the last thing she wants to be around Davos. I think more Davos than Jon.
Yeah. She specifically mentions Jon, and I think Jon's obviously uneasy with her, but Davos would probably just try and stab her.
Yeah, well, and that's a more personal thing with what she did, more than Jon. Just the uneasiness of this lady probably brought me back to life.
I did really like though how she was kind of regretful about what she'd done. She was like, "No, I was wrong. I didn't need to do that. I killed a child for no reason." Yep. She obviously shouldn't say as much as that. But
you can tell in her face, because you got to remember too that it was a red priest that castrated Varys.
Yeah.
So he has an uneasiness with them, and when he confronts her, he's very just ready to go. And so she deals with the hostility well, and says that she's gonna go off to Volantis, back across the sea, and kind of leaves him with a hint, saying that she's probably going to die in Westeros, and so is Varys. So that was
yeah, that makes sense to me. I think Varys has known that for a while.
Yeah.
And
I'm surprised he made it out of Daenerys' grilling last week, on last week's episode.
So am I, actually. Yeah.
So, and so we had that scene, and then we get Tyrion and Dany, and he tries to pass off more of his words as ancient wisdom. She calls him out, which I like too.
Yeah, she's learning how he works.
Which, and he's smart that way, because he can, if he's wrong, it's ancient wisdom. But again, she catches him, which she should by now. Like, they know each other pretty well, and that him and Jon had talked about the dragon glass, because that's why they're there. And Jon had mentioned it to Dany. And Tyrion's kind of trying to teach Dany how to bargain.
Yeah, and he puts forward a very logical argument, doesn't he?
It's like, well, if it's not worth anything to us, but it's worth everything to them, and you want him to bend the knee, and you kind of need the North, isn't it good to work with him and give him what
that's
he wants?
it. He basically, you didn't even know it was there.
Yeah.
You don't want it. You don't need it. It does nothing for you.
You're giving up nothing.
Yeah, you lose nothing because you didn't know it was there. 10 minutes ago you didn't have this. So why not just still not have it?
Yep.
And then he gets something that he actually wants, and it's progress.
Yep.
Tyrion doing some good handwork.
Yep. Yeah. And that's so we'll get to his plan a little bit down the line. But yeah, he's got to be good at something, because battle planning, not so much right now.
Yeah, which is a shame, because he was pretty good at that.
He's great in theory, but it's the execution he's getting. I don't want to say his legs cut out from under him, because people might think that's a dwarf joke, because it's totally not. But he's getting outmaneuvered, and nothing's really his fault, because it is good, sound strategy. It's just So we'll go from Dragonstone to there's a quick scene We pick up on Theon the jumper. Because I noticed someone, I think I might have read on Reddit, that dude jumps off of things a lot.
You're right, he does.
He does, right? And they fish him out. It looks like it's was it one of yours guys?
I assume so, because it was definitely an iron ship.
Yeah.
And they didn't seem, and they were like, "Hey, you didn't really try and save her." So I assume it was one of theirs.
I took it as that because they're all flying under the same banner. So I figured it was his other uncle that we kind of saw a little bit of.
It might have been, and obviously we got the mention back in Dragonstone that there were a few ships that survived.
Yeah.
So I just assume this is one of those.
Yeah. So they get word at the Dragonstone. I kind of skipped over that they were on their way to Dorne when they were attacked. So now we have a direction already.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so that wipes out one thing for Tyrion and their plan, the attack on King's Landing. So, yeah, Theon gets fished out. They look at him and the Ironborn, want to know what happened. And he, it's a super uncomfortable scene just because I kind of over Theon. Out of everybody that can get it, I kind of want him to get it.
I get it. It's because he's kind of sad and pathetic now.
Yeah. And he always kind of was, because he was kind of always the lesser growing up with the Starks. Like, him and Robb were kind of close, but
yeah,
he's always just a toady. Like,
yeah, right since the start of the show, he was always just, going, "Oh, I can do this for you."
Yeah. And here he has nothing, because he didn't even pay the iron price, which being Ironborn, he should have died on his feet. I think that scene's gonna play coming up more, because I feel this is gonna be his leading to a shining moment where he does finally get it. I think.
Well, it's that or he dies. It's what are the two?
Well, and that's what I mean. That's a shining moment. He's gonna sacrifice himself.
Okay. So you don't think you don't think he actually achieves whatever he sets us to do, but this sacrifice will be his moment.
Yeah, exactly. Okay. Because every time they've given him the opportunity to do something right, he's failed.
That is true. So every time.
I think that when he finally makes the right choice, it's going to be him giving up self-preservation for the greater good, and maybe it's saving Yara from Euron, or it has maybe something to do with a greater battle coming ahead.
Yeah.
Euron.
Yeah,
Euron. Speaking of pirates and this guy.
I'm over him again.
Yeah.
So first episode, when he was speaking, I was like, okay, not a fan, but whatever. Second episode, when he was in action, great stuff. That stuff on the ships at the end of last episode, he was fantastic.
Yeah.
But here, he's so cartoonish. He's kind of like a Disney villain.
Yeah.
And I like Disney movies. I like Disney villains, but I don't want them in this.
So I've seen that too. I've heard that criticism of Euron, but I look at it if Robb Stark was meant to be Prince Charming, right? And it's playing out to and then you have what was the other one that I read? You had Prince Charming. Oh, then Oberyn as the noble, Inigo Montoya in his storyline. They're both not as cartoonish as Euron, but they're filling a trope. I think you're right. They're both filling the tropes, but Euron's just turned up to 11. No, but I would say 12. He goes beyond the 11.
Like this here, when he's walking through the, dragging them through the streets and cheering and celebrate. It's just I'm over it. Like his whole attitude is it's not working for me.
Okay. See, I like it just because it's direct opposition of Jaime. Like, he is the character designed to get under Jaime's skin the most.
But I think he could still do that without being this cartoonish.
See, I don't know, because Jaime's come so far, right? Like, he was the dude that started the show by throwing a kid out a window for self-preservation.
Yeah.
And through his relationship with Brienne, he's kind of become a better person. But every time he gets around his sister, that darkness starts to show again. Yeah. And I feel like Euron is kind of, if he's the cold darkness, then Euron's kind of the hot fire. Like he's like a firework. He's gonna burn. He's gonna burn bright.
Yeah.
And my dogs agree. So
that settles it then.
With the kite. Yeah. They're fighting with the cat. I have my own battle of the pirate ships. I'm just listening. That's why you think if I'm stuttering, that's why.
Just check they're not destroying anything.
Yeah, no, they're fine, I think. But yeah, so he drags them into, it's Yara and Ilaria Sand and Tyene Sand, which I have the names in front of me today.
Well done, because I was just going to go daughter number 1.
Yeah, daughter number 1. Last Sand Sink standing as far as we know.
Yeah, exactly.
But yeah, they're kind of doing a walk of shame up through King's Landing, and he presents them as the gifts to Cersei, which we were on the track of.
Yeah.
It was Ilaria and Tyene, and I knew it was coming from there based off of what they did to Marcella. How it happened, I was a little more, because they kept showing the mountain in his Franken Mountain guys, and I was just like, oh man, what is something really bad going to happen? And I mean, it is bad, but compared to what it could have been,
it's not mountain bad. Yeah.
No, it's not mountain bad. And Cersei, as they're strung up in the dungeons, tells them, I thought about handling this like I just had his name, the Viper, Oberyn.
Oberyn, yeah.
Yeah, about how he handled Oberyn, and if it wasn't for Oberyn's crowing, then he'd probably still be alive because he defeated him in combat. And you guys had to do your own version of crowing, so I couldn't do that. And then basically does the poison kiss they hit Marcella with, and now they're gonna Cersei's gonna make Ilaria watch Tyene die a very terrible, horrible death.
Yeah, and by the sounds of it, she's just gonna leave the body there to rot and decompose, and Ilaria is just gonna have to watch that forever. Yep. Well, till she dies.
And she even says, don't even think about, because I'll send somebody to wake you up every couple hours. Like, you're not.
Yeah, and it's like, I'm going to keep you fed through tubes, whatever I have to do.
Yep.
You're staying alive and you're watching your daughter's body decompose.
Yep. So and that's only being kept alive. So something bad could happen after that, however long it takes, And Cersei, man, she is really cranking that up. Like,
yeah, although you have to think if Ilaria does ever get out of this somehow, like that hatred for Cersei, which was already pretty high anyway.
Yeah.
Is yeah.
Yeah, because the Dornish hate of the Lannisters goes deep because of what they did to Rhaegar's wife, to Elia, Oberyn's sister. So it and the Mountain for that matter, because he was the one that did all that bad stuff. And yeah, so I wonder where this leaves Dorne now, because they were the government there. And
that's true.
They didn't really leave an order of secession because they took out Tristan, and unless there's other sand snakes down there trying to hold it down.
That could be, because I always got the impression there was a lot of sand snakes.
Yeah, there's supposed to be 7. At least there's 7 in the books.
Yeah.
And they come from kind of all over, and even parts of Westeros where Oberyn had traveled and did some things. Got it on. The Iron Bank comes to visit, so we get see that guy again.
Yeah, that was cool.
Yeah, the last time we saw him, I think Stannis was appealing to him, or Davos was for Stannis.
Yeah, it might have been. But it's been a while since we've seen him.
Yeah, and so he comes in and basically is like, "Hey, we know you ain't got money because your dad told us he ain't got money. We need money."
Pretty much.
And she accuses him of gambling. And he's like, no, we don't gamble. We invest in what benefits the Iron Bank of Bravos. She's like, yeah, that's just gambling, though. So why don't you gamble on me? A Lannister always repays their debts. And yeah, she sweet talks the dude. Like,
yeah, she says, stick around for a fortnight and we'll get you some stuff. Although, I have to say, my mind was rumbling a little bit because just as he's introduced, she says to Cersei, you have a visitor from Bravos.
Yeah.
And immediately I went, ooh, is this Arya?
Arya. Yeah.
Is she in disguise? And I don't think it
more
is.
More on that in a second. More of that in a second. But yeah, because we know Arya is See, I still don't know if she's going to Winterfell or if she's going to
I don't
the
know. I'm
Landing.
still torn. It could go either way still.
But yeah, the visitor from Bravos too. I thought, oh, okay. Uh, but yeah, so he comments that Cersei is becoming her father, basically, which is scary because that dude he got it done. Like, he wasn't the most noble man, he wasn't the smartest man, but if it needed to get done, it got done.
I think Tywin was the best ruler the country had seen in a long time.
Mm-hmm.
Not necessarily. He was not the most moral man, but I don't think he was necessarily a bad person either. But maybe at times on some decisions. But overall, I think he genuinely did serve the realm.
Oh yeah.
So in that sense, I think he was the best ruler that they had, because obviously he was the hand for however long.
Well, he was what Mockingbird. Wait, wrong one. That's his sigil, but Littlefinger wants to be. Yeah. And pulling strings from the shadows and doing all that stuff. So we get to Jaime and Cersei, who Cersei really turned on from the day's events, and goes right after her brother. Was that?
I said pretty much, yeah. She's just like, screw it, I'm queen. We'll do what I want.
Yeah. Yep. And so they spend the night, and actually it's a kind of tender scene when they wake up in the morning. Like, you forget that she does have love in that heart somewhere. And
I think it's really interesting that obviously this is after she's got her vengeance. It's like, because obviously she's been very clear of trying not to
justice. Which is the title.
Sorry, justice. She's been very clear of trying not to publicly mourn. Right. But obviously we've seen her go a bit crazy. Mm-hmm. But now that she's kind of had that moment where she's got what she wanted, she feels better. She can kind of relax and get back to Jaime.
Yep. They can get on getting it on. Like they used to make some. Man, they're not giving up today. But they need a successor, and I guess she's queen. She makes the rules. It was good for the Targaryens, so why not? And there's a knock on the door. She goes to answer it, and Jaime's like, "What are you doing? I can't be seen here." And she basically says what we just said: "I'm the queen. Do what I want. I don't care what people say anymore."
She's basically, because obviously the Targaryens did this forever. Yeah. So she's like, well, they did it, so we come, and now they can't stop us because I'm the queen, so I can do this now.
Right, and she took out the people that were leading the charge against her for doing that with the Faith Militant.
Right, exactly.
Right, so, but there's a knock on the door, and it looks like one of her handmaidens. And she's got the same haircut as the queen. And I
noticed that too.
Right? And the camera lingers on her a little bit. So I feel like this character might be becoming important down the line.
You thinking this might be Arya?
This might be Arya. Or she's going to come in contact with Arya. Like, I feel like we're going to see this girl again.
Yeah, you could well be right.
Or it could be a red herring, like we talked about at the top.
I feel like they're throwing in a lot of those now, just because they know we're looking for them. So just go right, just throw in them all in.
Yep. And so I think we should go to Jaime since we're focused on him. So he hates Euron. We know this, and Euron had made this big declaration that with him leading the navy and Jaime leading the army, they're going to be unstoppable. And he goes and he's going to protect Casterly Rock because that's where they think that Tyrion's going to go, because Tyrion seems obsessed with this place.
It's because it's symbolic, isn't it, Casterly Rock? It
is.
King's Landing might be the heart of the crown, but it's the Lannisters that are on the crown, and their home is Casterly Rock, so that's where you strike. It makes sense. It's
a moral victory more than it's an actual strategic victory, I think. I mean, taking their army off the table would be good, but because that's where the majority of the Queen's people are coming from.
Right. But more importantly, it undermines them, the crown, because it's like, if you can't even protect your own castle, how are you supposed to protect the whole realm?
Exactly, and that's why Tyrion, again, sound strategy. And So we get to Tyrion's idea or his plan of sending the Unsullied and the Dothraki in, and they're leading a siege, and he's narrating, which I thought was a really cool scene.
Yeah, it's fantastically edited, this.
As he's telling Dany and the War Council what's going to happen, we're seeing it play out. But, he cleaned the sewage areas in Castle Rock in his youth, and he knows that area better. And he used to smuggle in whores to the dismay of the rest of his family. So he tells Grey Worm that there's this area and gives him the secret plans, and
go in and take him out from within. And he the fantastic callback to Bronn, give me 10 good men, I'll impregnate the bitch. It's like,
exactly.
He's learning.
Exactly. Except Grey Worm starts to feel like this was a little too easy. They took some casualties, and he looks over the parapet, and their ships are getting wrecked on by the Greyjoy fleet.
Decimated.
They were ready. It was almost a trap. But now the Unsullied have Casterly Rock, which is, again, moral victory. That's good. But where's the Lannister army? They're not there. They're with Jaime, wherever Jaime's at. And we see them marching. And we see that Randall Tarley took the deal with the devil.
Yeah, which it's kind of painful, isn't it? Because you wanted him to do better. You
did, but now they're going to be the Wardens of the Reach, right? And that's kind of bad news for Sam, because he left on bad terms.
That is true. Yeah.
Although that hasn't seem to come into play at all, but maybe.
Yeah, that stuff kind of feels a bit throwaway now, doesn't it?
It does. But yeah, they're marching on Highgarden.
Which was a great stuff, because obviously this is the first time in the show we've seen Casterly Rock at last. And you get that, and you're like, wow, that was a big reveal, finally. And then they hit you with another big one straight after that you just weren't expecting, much like the army. Yeah.
And so the thing about Highgarden, and even Olenna had said this to Daenerys, is we have money, but we ain't got troops. Like, we're not a proud fighting, family.
And I think everyone knows that.
Yeah, and so there's not much of a fight for the Lannister army. No. Jaime just kind of goes in there. There's a couple guys that have been taken out.
Yeah, like he says, they tried. They did as well as they could be expected, but no one expects much from them.
And you can just tell on Jaime's face, he kind of doesn't want to be here.
Yeah.
Like, and it's not because, he'd rather be back. It's just, to me, I took that as he's debating if this is where he wants to be in his life. Like, he wants to be just executing orders for his sister, just for the hell of it.
Because that's what pretty much his life was. It was, execute orders for his father.
Right.
And even when he was in the Kingsguard, he was still doing what his dad said his entire life. Mm-hmm. And now Cersei's just basically, as we talked about earlier, become her dad. So it's like, exactly. He's just still there.
Yep. And so he finds Olenna, who we see seeing them march in, and she's up and she's got her wine.
Yep.
And Jaime comes at her and she's like, "Oh, what are you gonna stab an old lady?" Like, she's awesome till the very end.
She goes out with a middle finger, doesn't she?
Yes, she does. The biggest middle finger. I like their conversation though, because it did show Jaime's humanity. And
he wanted to show her mercy, and he turned Cersei down from public humiliation and executions.
Right, and we'd always known that Olenna hated the Lannisters, like the way that she would talk with Tywin and then talk about Joffrey. I don't even think she called him Joffrey. She always called him the monster.
Yeah, that's true.
Right, and she was always never their biggest fan. So when she kind of reaches out to Jaime, is like, well, how's it going to be? And he tells her, Cersei wanted it bad, but we're going to go with poison.
I think she was expecting the worst.
She was.
And I think she was prepared for that. That's why she'd got the wine out. It's like, all right, I want one last drink before this.
Right. And again, it shows kind of Jaime's nobility from where he was, from throwing the kid out a window to now he's in another similar situation. And does he take the old Jaime route and just do what needs to be done, or does he take the new Jaime route? And
I think it
shows some nobility in class.
You keep going back to that, that opening scene of his, with the line he says after he pushes him out, the things I do for love. And here it is now, and is like, is he still doing things for love, or is it just obligation now?
Exactly. And he could almost say that line here after he poisons an old lady, but in a completely different tone. Yeah,
and now it's he's used the love to be make unquestionably this better. She's still dead. No concept like that. But there was no way he could change that. But he did make it immensely easier for her.
Right. And so he tells her the poison's gonna be quick acting, and she goes, "Oh, okay. Well, then I have some things to tell you." And it's where the middle fingers come up. She was like, "Because I wouldn't want to go out like your son Joffrey." And there's we say the first name, and purple and gripping. So just know that I'm the one that pulled those strings.
Yeah, it's just like, look, and I didn't really know what that poison was going to do. I'd never seen it happen before, and the look on his face. Yeah. When he kind of has that realization of what she said is fantastic.
Yep. And so big middle fingers. And he goes, "And let Cersei know, please."
Yeah, I want to, which will really change things for her. Because obviously, even now, I think she still assumes it was Tyrion.
Right.
And I think everyone else believed it was Tyrion, because obviously then Tyrion then fled. So it kind of
because it
solidified his guilt almost.
Yeah, it was Littlefinger and her. Co-plotting.
Yeah, we know this.
Almost to save Sansa, right? Like, he had to depose the king, but
that was just a happy accident that lined up with his plan. Yeah,
exactly. But it was to get Sansa out of there, where she was in threat, in danger, and kind of kicked off this whole stretch that we've had. That Joffrey's death leads to Cersei taking desperate measures. So it's kind of. Olenna made her bed, and now she has to lie in it.
Yeah, and that's it. Like I said, I think she was more than prepared to take whatever they had coming. Yep. But she just made the best of the situation that she had.
Yep. And he kind of just like, well, great.
Yeah. This question is, do you think he tells Cersei or not?
My heart says yes, my brain says no. Because I feel... there's this prophecy that I picked up from talking to fans of the books, and they talked about it. It was the first flashback in the show's history. I want to say it was started season 5.
Yeah, with the witch.
With her, that there's a part that kind of gets left out that's from the book, that the little brother will be death.
Yeah, it was a word translated from Valyrian, I think, that translates to little brother. So obviously she's always assumed Tyrion.
Tyrion, right? She has her brothers, but Jaime is like 8 minutes younger than her because they're twins.
Right, but she is the older one.
Right, and she's going to die by a golden hand. Well, what's he got?
It kind of feels inevitable, doesn't it?
Yeah, it does, and he's the Kingslayer.
I mean, so even ignoring that prophecy, there was the moment when she first became queen, and she put on the black dress, and he ever since he's been giving her these looks like, you're starting to go a bit crazy, obviously, he was the one who stepped in when it came to the Mad King. He put aside the fact that he would be breaking an oath, and he did. Ultimately, he made the right call, what he had to do.
Right. Well, and that's it. When innocents were getting Dragonfire, he stepped in. He wasn't there this time.
It's why I kind of feel like he is kind of like Tywin. In a sense, Tywin, he did what he had to do, but he was quite a good ruler. He wasn't cruel to anyone, really.
Well, Jaime's always been a soldier. He always just does what he's told. I mean, that's how he ended up in the Kingsguard, the Mad King, in order to mess with Tywin, who they had this rivalry, even though he was the Hand, taking his...
What a crazy relationship that is.
Yeah, it so is. Hopefully we can delve into that, down the line a little bit. But knowing that he has a dwarf son that he really doesn't want to leave Casterly Rock to, he takes his son and makes him a Kingsguard member. and then he works his way
like,
up.
Right, and it's like, well, now you have to give it to the dwarf.
Exactly. And so he's always just been this guy that does what he's told, and I feel he's starting to break against that. And he's going to start making his own decisions, because every time he does, he kind of changes the world, right?
He does, doesn't he? Yeah.
Yeah. And that's why he's become one of my Dark Horse favorite characters. Like last year at River Run, when he's threatening to launch babies and catapults, I'm just like, not a good look, bro.
Yeah.
But then
it's done such a good job with his growth that when he actually does show those dark moments, that you actually feel like, no, you're better than this.
Yeah. Well, so then he goes here to Olenna, and he's classy and noble, and gives her I guess you can say a righteous death.
Yeah, an easy way out.
Yeah. And yeah, so Jaime, I think big things are coming for that guy.
Yeah, down in Maritime.
Down the line. And so from Highgarden, which that's kind of where the episode hit the crescendo, big moment. We go to, I'd say Winterfell is the next kind of important. These are like the bits like we did last week.
Yeah, Winterfell is the main bit we haven't really touched on. Which you had a couple of scenes there, really.
Mm-hmm. Nothing with Arya, so we still haven't seen Arya. So we didn't get payoff to if she went to Winterfell or not. But another Stark shows up there, and it's Brandon.
Yes.
And this dude, so Sansa hasn't seen him in what seems like years. Like, he's now my man. When she left to go down to King's Landing, he was a boy. And
I think it's interesting you say that he's now a man, because that's kind of how she looks at him.
Yeah.
But I think he's very much like, no, I'm beyond being a man.
That's what I was going to get to.
Yeah.
That's what we think, but he spent way too much time in the Treater Net. Like,
it's a good name
for it. This dude is
he's so detached.
Maybe he took the wrong thing at Coachella, and he hasn't been right since.
Yeah.
That's his whole vibe. Someone compared it to Dr. Manhattan, and I wish I could remember who in the Facebook group had mentioned that, but it's spot on.
Yeah, no, that is it, yeah.
And so he's like all zoned out. Mira's there, and we don't make a big deal of her, but I think that's being that her dad was the one that helped Ned at the Tower of Joy. I feel her presence is going to be made important soon. And Sansa has a moment with Bran outside the weirwood tree that's in the middle of Winterfell.
Yeah.
And he's, again, like he said, detached. And she's like, well, you're the Lord. You're the last living, you're the actual...
Trueborn son, yeah.
Trueborn son. And he goes, no, I'm the three-eyed raven. She goes, what do you mean? He's like, yeah, it's a thing that I have to do. I'm kind of beyond titles. Well, who told you that? The three-eyed raven? Well, aren't you the three-eyed raven? And
it was complicated.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then he goes into what happened to her from Ramsay, but the way that he says it, it's so creepy. It's like the beginning of a horror movie.
Yeah, he doesn't. There's no compassion there. It's just reciting the events. And
I feel like his time with the original Three-Eyed Raven, with, what was it, Aemon? Not Aemon. He's one of the A's, because he was a Targaryen.
Yeah, I can't remember.
But Maester Aemon was the guy up at the wall.
Yeah.
Anyways, they're related. I know that much. But anyway, he didn't seem to be that detached. So I feel like
Bran's taken it a step too far. Like he's thrown himself headfirst in, but he's kind of forgotten to retain the humanity. The connection as to why he's doing it.
And so it's like, what else has he seen then? If he went and saw what happened with Sansa, and he knows with Jon, his true parentage, what else has he seen? Has he seen Littlefinger? Did he go check in on what happened to his dad?
The way he says it, he's seen everything. Because, he basically gives that Dr. Manhattan speech of, why should human interests matter to me when I've seen everything that has ever been? Mm-hmm. Yeah, and that's kind of where he's at now. So it's like, I assume he just has knowledge about everything at this point. That's all he's been doing, is just looking at stuff.
Yeah, well, because he did. I mean, it took him a while to get to the wall, and then who knows how many weirwood trees they passed on the way
Yeah.
from the Wall to Winterfell, and as if his presence wasn't already complicated for Sansa. She's got Littlefinger trying to make moves like a creep.
Yeah.
But he's pointing out some smart things about, you got Cersei from the south and the White Walkers from the north. We're up against the rock and a hard place here. Like we need to.
I really
start
like
thinking.
Littlefinger here because that's it. Like we know he's doing it for ultimately the wrong reasons. He's being very selfish still, but his advice is pretty good.
It is, and that's what shocks me. And he's probably my most hated character still alive.
Yeah, but he's not an idiot. That's the point.
And that's So anytime I agree with him, I feel dirty.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh God, he makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, because he gives that line. What is it about how, it doesn't matter if everyone's dead, but who are you gonna rule then, essentially?
Right. And that's Jon had sold that to Daenerys.
Yeah, it's a very similar point.
You can be the Queen of Seven Kingdoms when there's smoldering ash, and she had said she did not, or Tyrion had said she didn't come to be the Queen of Ashes. So
right.
The North is definitely having a renaissance right now.
Yeah, and it's really nice to see Sansa in a leading role for once. Obviously, we've seen her questioning Jon recently, and it didn't look good. But here, where she's just taking command, she's like, right, food, armor, warmth. These are the things we need for winter. Forget about the war. Well, either war. Just what do we need just to survive before we even consider that? And I think it's smart that she's doing that.
Well, yeah, as she's walking past the blacksmiths and they're forging armor. She's like, why isn't that covered in leather? That needs to be covered in leather.
Yeah.
And it's a really nice moment that she's picking up on the smaller details. That's why this wedge that keeps being teased between her and Jon, I hope is just a red herring, because I feel the North needs a win after all the bad stuff that's been. I feel like this generation needs it. Between the death of Robb and Rickon, you still got Arya, Sansa, and Bran as major factors. Yeah. And they all seem to be major figures, not just in the story, but in Westeros itself.
Right. And I think I really like Sansa here, because obviously it showed that she's probably more capable than Jon is of leading, because Jon is we talked about last week, so obsessed with the White Walkers, and again, understandably so.
Yeah, he begrudgingly takes the king in the north because everybody's yelling it.
Right, but Sansa's the one who's actually doing the work here, and I think it's interesting to see that she's picked up a lot from her time in King's Landing, how to do this, how the politics has made her into a leader, but she hasn't forgotten how to be northern. But we get through the bit of why is there no leather on the armor? She still knows exactly what it means for winter in the north, even though she's never really experienced it.
No, exactly. And she's learned from Littlefinger too, as much as I hate to admit. So those knowing looks have been throughout the season.
That's it. We hate Littlefinger, but he is a master of the game.
He is.
So if you got to learn from him, at least be aware that you want to stab him when you're finished.
Yeah, exactly. Just know where to stick the knife. That's the important part.
Yeah, exactly.
And lastly, we get to Old Town and Sam, little Sam, and he's healed Jorah in his secret initiation. Not initiation, but secret rites, I guess, of cleaning Grayscale. And Archmaester, who, according to the internet, his name is Ebros. But I'm just going to keep calling him Slughorn, because that's how I know him. Or the Archmaester. Yeah. So he looks over Jorah, and he's kind of confused. Like, he's never seen any of this before. And how could this kid that isn't even a maester, like, he shouldn't know how to do this stuff or being able to, he's good at it. And he starts giving Sam praise and then immediately takes it away. Oh, you thought you were getting a reward? No. Go over these manuscripts that are moth-eaten and copy them word for word. That's what Sam signed up for, in all fairness. Like, he's not there for glory. He's there for
pretty much. And I have to say, this sequence gave me some of my biggest laughs outside of Davos. Some of the biggest laughs of the episode, like when Jorah was just woke up feeling better.
Yeah,
that cracked me up. Yeah.
And even though the handshake that he gives to Sam, I felt was comedically timed.
Yeah.
Because this guy just had a contagious disease, and he shakes the hand and keeps it there and puts his other hand, like, I call
Just
it the
like,
old man handshake.
yeah,
You
where you
know?
cut around both hands. It's just like,
Yeah,
it's almost him going, look, I can do this now.
yeah.
He's overcompensating.
And so I thought that was pretty funny. But yeah, so Jorah, his time in the Citadel, not as long. Again, the show's moving
Yeah.
so very fast,
Yeah.
and he's off to join Daenerys at Dragonstone, which I guess because Old Town's in the Reach, right? Because it was close to
Uh,
Tarly.
I
Uh,
guess so, actually, yeah.
yeah, it was close to where the Tarly's from. So that name.
Hornhill.
Horn Hill, yeah. So it's close to Horn Hill because that's why they stopped there on the way. And so Dragonstone's in the south, so I don't think it's too far. So
Yeah,
again,
I'm just like,
John and
it's in the Reach.
yeah, so John and Davos can get down to Dragonstone super fast. I feel like Jorah is gonna have a meeting back up.
That's
And
true. Yeah. Oh, yeah.
he fulfilled what she sent him to do. So
Yeah, exactly. So he can rejoin her service.
mhm.
That was the other major laugh I got from that segment is when Archmaester was like, how did you do all this? And Sam just goes, I followed the instructions.
Yeah,
That cracked me right
because
up.
you feel like sometimes the Maesters are up their own butt a lot.
Yeah, he's like, you must have done something amazing, and Sam's just like, nah, just did what it said. Read the
They
book.
were in there. He did the legwork, where to look. I mean, granted, he had to steal probably some stuff from the restricted section,
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, he did the legwork, figured it out, and now there's a cure for grayscale.
Right, and it's why I
Uncovered
feel
by
like
Samuel.
this punishment of him
Mhm.
rewriting all these scrolls, it isn't really a punishment. He's basically going, hey Sam, you copy all this down. You're
Mhm.
going to read it when you do it because let's face it, you're going to be interested.
Yep.
And if there's anything useful or interesting, you will let us know because you can't help yourself. And
Yeah,
he
so
knows
basically
that.
he got Dumbledored. This is
Pretty
what
much.
Dumbledore would do to Harry when Harry broke the rules. Here, go shine those trophies. And that's where he finds out about Tom Riddle.
Yeah, exactly.
So I like that because he kind of, the Archmaester has a laugh too. He's like, well, I should throw you out of the Citadel for this, but I won't.
Yeah, it
And
was like it was too impressive to do that. That'd be a waste.
exactly. He knows he had a good mind. But yeah, I think you're right. He's going to find something major in there, whether it has to do with the Long Night or maybe dragons or
Yeah, I'm not
ice
sure what
dragons.
it could be almost anything, but I
But
guarantee there'll be something in there.
they made a big deal of it that it was old. Like, so
Yeah.
I feel there's some lost knowledge. But yeah, so that was episode 3. Game of Thrones. We're moving along. There's 4 left.
Yeah, pretty good. I like pretty much everything except Euron.
Yeah, which he's the thorn in your side.
Yeah.
But so yeah, so please check us out on not Facebook, Twitter. That's the one at mild_fuzz. Come and find us in the Facebook group. I think that's just at
Just search Mild Fuzz on Facebook and it'll pop up. Yeah, we have weekly discussion threads on Game of Thrones and pretty much everything else as well. But
pretty much everything. Yeah, we talk comics, Game of Thrones, professional wrestling, music, just
anything.
Group of nerds. Yeah. So come check us out and check us out next week. We'll keep going down this journey. So I guess my sign off this week will be winners come.